and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. My name's Paula. Today's video is part 2 on kitchen witchery, and this is where we get into more of the focus being on cooking, which is what most people think about for kitchen witchery, and some correspondences. Of course, I cannot list every single correspondence for food that there is. That would just take forever and a day. But there is a handout in the description box that lists a lot of very common and some not so common ingredients and their intent. And then there's also a list from Patricia Telesco's book. I think it was called Bubble, Toil, and Trouble. But it was her book on kitchen witchery, where it lists a lot of stuff by intent and what ingredients you can use for that intent. Okay. My grimoire is ingredient based, not intent based. So it was just it was easier to use the list from Patricia Telesco. Want to be completely clear that that part of the handout completely belongs to Patricia Telesco. The only thing that I did was a little bit of formatting stuff. So let's just do a little bit of a recap. If you have not watched part 1, I'm going to link part 1 in the description box. That goes over how to set up your kitchen witchery altar, what to do for your kitchen, your magical tools in kitchen witchery, and explaining to you that kitchen witchery is more than just the act of cooking. It's maintaining a magical household. Okay, so there's a lot more to it than just cooking. But cooking can be a very, very big part of your kitchen witchery. Because face it, we all have to eat. Otherwise, it wouldn't be too long before we left this earth if we didn't eat and drink water and sustain our bodies. Okay, so but don't just think about the act of cooking. Okay, we already put a lot of love and effort into our cooking. If you love to cook, there's a lot of love and a lot of effort that goes into preparing a meal for the family. Think of your kitchen witchery with the same reverence and love as you do your spell work and your rituals, your Esbat and Sabbat rituals, okay? It is the same thing. It deserves the same thought, care, and effort as do your regular spells and everything else, okay? One of the things that you have to do, and you don't have to create your recipes from scratch. That's why in the handout I listed the intents for a lot of common ingredients. And what I have done is some of the favorite family recipes in my recipe book that I have is I write the intents in the margins. I have also included a recipe in the description box for fresh apple cake that you can make for Mabon. My family loves it this time of year, and it's really super easy. Even if you're not a baker, even if you're not a cook, you probably be able to make that recipe because that's just how easy it is. And the ingredients are probably already in your kitchen. So I will also link that in the description box. So what you need to do is, just like with your rituals, when you're going to cook magically, you have to think about what the intent of the meal is going to be, what each dish of the meal is going to bring literally to the table. Okay, you want to assemble your ingredients, you want to assemble your tools just as you would assemble everything that you need for your altar for a ritual or for doing spells. Okay, Your kitchen is now also an altar if you followed the steps that I put forth in the part one video on kitchen witchery. If you find that you need a tool that you didn't consecrate when you consecrated your magical tools for your kitchen witchery, do that ahead of time, okay? Another thing is fix food that you like. Don't force yourself or anyone in the family to eat something that they hate just because of the magical intent. I can guarantee you, you can find another ingredient, herb, spice, something else to substitute for whatever it is that you could be allergic to, that you just despise. Like my better half will not eat a Brussels sprout, but he will eat cabbage and sauerkraut. Now that makes no sense to my little brain because Brussels sprouts are little cabbages, but he won't eat it. So I do not ever fix Brussels sprouts for him. I do fix them for myself. Okay. Another thing is to stay away from highly processed foods. Now I do use pre-prepared pastas and dry pastas, dried beans, things like that in my witchery cooking. But I don't use things that are highly artificial or highly processed, like cheese products, like Velveeta. I don't use it. When I can, I use fresh herbs over dried herbs. But you can't always do that. If you are a carnivore like me and you do eat meat, fish, shellfish, poultry, those correspondences are listed in the ingredients list. A lot of Wiccans think that the taking of a life or using the byproducts of animals goes against the Wiccan Rede. And if you feel that way, fine and ducky dory, cook your vegetarian or vegan meal. But you can look up the correspondences in the ingredient list that I did include. Now, I make one big exception to this rule, and that is the fact that I cook with lactose-free milk because lactose absolutely kills me. So, it's been, modified and kind of adulterated to get to that lactose-free kind of state. But that's my one exception that I make. I also use as many organic or grass-fed beef, no antibiotics, no hormones, free-range eggs, free-range chickens, things of that nature. I don't typically buy ingredients that are, I'm not, where the animals are, I'm going to say where the animals are more ethically treated. So, and that's my own preference. I prefer free-range beef, grass-fed beef, and I prefer free-range chickens, but that's me. And I use as many organic ingredients as I can. All right, so enough about all that falderoy. It's time to cook. What's very important is that you need, as you're preparing the ingredients, you want to set the intent while you're chopping or peeling or, however it is that you have to manipulate the ingredients that you've chosen. Okay? You have to set the intent, just like you do with anything that you do at your main altar. You set the intent of gemstones. You set the intent of the herbs. And Another thing to remember is that kitchen witchery is sympathetic or what is called low magic. It can take time for really tough issues, like if you want to work on a very deep-seated emotional trauma that you've been through, you're going to need more than one meal to do that. So, instead of fixing a single meal for that intent, you may want to fix a big pot of soup and then eat that soup over, a few days. All right, that's something else to think about. You also never want to do magical cooking when you're in a crappy mood, when you're just not in the mood to mess with it, when you're sick and ailing, although, you would want to throw something together to heal. You really don't want to know that, because probably know from experience that when you do perform magic, when you're not feeling well, when you were like taking painkillers, I never ever, when I broke my leg, and the entire time through rehab and everything, because I broke my leg, I broke my tib fib, I had to have a rod put in my leg, pretty rough orthopedic surgery with a very long and extended recovery period to it. About the only thing that I did was Reiki my bath water and do like healing bath teas and and salt baths. I did not perform any regular magic, okay, because I was on painkillers, and when you are in like an altered state of mind, it's not a good time to do magic. If you are sharing the meal with others, tell them about the intent. If they object to, eating something that's been magically enhanced, fix them a peanut butter sandwich. No, I'm joking. Then you can really set the intent for your plate. Okay, instead of doing the whole meal, and set the intent for the meal in each dish, you can set the intent for your portions. Okay, but my family, we were a very eclectic bunch. My better half is Christian. My sister and her family are Jews. My other sister, who I lost back in 2016, she was Christian and her family's Christian. My family tolerates me and my, my quote unquote wacky ideas. Their words, not mine, but they tolerate and appreciate what I'm doing when I say, okay, this is a magical meal for doing X, Y, and Z. The same thing with my friends. If they object to it, I don't force sympathetic magic down their throat. That's a type of like what I call malignant magic, and it's just not good, okay? Learn from your experience. Keep track of the recipes in your grimoire, okay? And what worked and what didn't, okay? I had a lot of fails when I was learning how to cook as a kid. I had magical fails too. That's how you learn. Keep trying, okay? Another thing to consider is, based on the intent, what might be a good way to cook whatever it is that you want to prepare. Like fried and spicy foods are great for protection spells. Steamed foods are great for purification. Yes, Rocky. Photobomb. Sauteed foods are great for strength. Flaming or flambéed foods are great for strength. Okay, so it's not only the ingredients, it's also how you're going to prepare it that can help set that intent even more. It's layer upon layer upon layer, just like your spells are. Okay, You are so handsome. I love you. You're a good boy. This is Rocky. He is my deaf Australian coolie. He was born deaf. So we communicate with sign language. And he loves to photobomb all the videos whenever I'm doing them. So I just wanted to go over some very, very common ingredients and what their magical cooking correspondence is. So like apples, they're an element of earth, and that's for happiness, healing, love, peace, and success. Okay. Bananas, good for fertility spells, love, luck, potency, prosperity, and spirituality. Blackberries, healing, lust, prosperity, and protection. Blueberries, peace and protection. Grapes, dreams, fertility, mental powers, and prosperity. Lemons, faithfulness, friendship, happiness, longevity, love, and marriage. Lime, cleansing and purification, healing, love, peace, and protection. Melons, so this would be like honeydew, cantaloupe, that kind of thing, but not watermelon. Melons in general are great for healing and purification because they have a very heavy water content. And then watermelon is for healing. Oranges, fidelity, healing, love, luck, peace, prosperity, and purification. Peaches, happiness, healing, fertility, longevity, love, and wisdom. Pears, longevity, love, luck, lust, and prosperity. Pineapples, chastity, healing, love, luck, prosperity, and protection. And one of my favorites, pomegranates, creativity, fertility, fruitfulness, hospitality, luck, prosperity, and making wishes come true. Raisins are great for mental powers or mental acuity and sun energy. Raspberries are happiness, love, protection, stamina, and vigor. Strawberry is intensity, love, luck, romance, and success. For the vegetables, asparagus, good for lust. Beans in general, okay, legumes in general. Decision making, grounding, love, lust, prosperity, and protection. Broccoli, leadership, protection, and strength. Those Brussels sprouts that I mentioned, endurance, protection, and stability. Cabbage, luck, prosperity, and protection. Carrots, fertility, grounding, luck, lust, and vision. Cauliflower, great for protection. Celery, grounding, lust, mental powers, peace, developing psychic powers, and weight loss. Chives, breaking bad habits, protection, and weight loss. Cucumbers, chastity, fertility, healing, and peace. Lettuce, and that's lettuce in general, is chastity, peace, prosperity, protection, relaxation, and sleep. Mushrooms, psychic awareness. Onions, endurance, healing, lust, prophetic dreams, prosperity, protection, and weight loss. Green bell peppers, growth and prosperity. Yellow bell peppers is empowered creativity. Red bell peppers is energy, strength, and vitality. Pickles, weight loss. Olives, fertility, healing, lust, peace, protection, and spirituality. Let's see, pumpkins, healing and prosperity. Potatoes, compassion, grounding, healing, and protection. Spinach, prosperity. Soy, so If you say can't have regular milk and you drink soy milk, this is where that would come into, and that's protection, psychic awareness, and spirituality. Sunflower seeds, protection and success. Sweet potatoes, grounding, love, and lust. Tomatoes, healing, love, prosperity, and protection. Herbs and spices, very common ones, and I'm going to go over ones that are kind of seasonally appropriate for right now. So allspice. We use a lot of allspice in my house during the holidays and with, pumpkin season and Thanksgiving right around the corner. We use allspice for determination, energy, harmony, healing, and prosperity. Basil, or basil, depending on where you're from. Love, peace, prosperity, protection, and understanding. Black pepper, banishing, cleansing, and purification, and protection. I also put black pepper, peppercorns in my windowsills for the protection and keeping the ooga boogas out. Cinnamon, healing, love, luck, lust, peace, protection, psychic powers, strength, and success. Cloves, courage, love, lust, money, protection, and it repels negativity. Dill, love, lust, mental powers, prosperity, protection, especially of children, and weight loss. Garlic, keeping thieves out of your house. Banishing, cleansing, and purification, healing, lust, prosperity, protection, and repelling negativity. Ginger, adventure, cleansing, healing, love, lust, power, and success. Marjoram, cleansing and purification, happiness, healing, prosperity, protection, and repelling negativity. Mint, communication, energy, healing, love, lust, prosperity, protection, and protection while traveling. Nutmeg is confidence, emotional openness, fidelity, healing, luck, prosperity, and social interaction. Oregano, energy, joy, peace, strength, and vitality. Parsley, domestic tranquility, energy, love, luck, lust, prosperity, protection of the home and from accidents. And peppermint, change, healing, love, lust, psychic powers, purification, sleep, and strength. Rosemary, cleansing and purification, healing, love, lust, mental powers, protection, sleep, and youth. Sage, cleansing and purification, healing, longevity, mental powers, protection, psychic powers, and wishes. Salt, cleansing and purification, grounding, and protection. Thyme, courage, healing, love, psychic powers, purification, sleep, and strength. And vanilla, joy, love, luck, lust, and mental powers. Now, nuts in general are, fertility, love, luck, and prosperity. But more common ones, almonds, healing, prosperity, and wisdom. So again, if you cannot do regular milk or dairy products, but you can do almond milk, that's what you would think about, okay? Cashews for prosperity. Again, cashew milk, that's what you would use. Coconut, like coconut milk especially. Your allure and confidence, like how others perceive you, okay? And to make you feel more confident in your appearance and your charisma, okay? Chastity, diversity, flexibility, protection, psychic awareness, purification, and spirituality. For the holiday season, chestnuts, roasted chestnuts, love and mental powers. Hazelnuts, fertility, luck, mental powers, and wisdom. Peanuts, grounding and prosperity. Pecans, we use a lot of pecans during the holidays in my house. Employment and prosperity. Walnuts, healing, infertility, mental powers, protection, and wishes. This is the English walnuts. There are black walnuts that, depending in where I'm from, and that's common to the part of the United States where I live, in Virginia and West Virginia, you know, in the Appalachians and everything, black walnut trees are very, very common. And depending on how you use your black walnuts, you can either do, you know, protection, or you can hex or jinx. So it's depending on how you use it. But black walnut does have a different magical intent than regular English walnuts do. Okay. Meats, poultry, fish, and shellfish. Beef is grounding, prosperity, protection, and strength. Chicken, grounding, healing, protection, and strength. Crab is lust and protection. Venison or deer meat, elegance, grace, protection, refinement, and strength. Hunting season is right around the corner here in the U.S. So everybody's getting ready for deer season and turkey season. Fish in general. Love, lust, psychic powers, and strength. Ham, dramatic energy, grounding, protection, being theatrical flair, and strength. But pork in general is grounding, fertility, and strength. Lamb or mutton is sensitivity, kindness, strength, and warmth. Sausage, grounding, protection, variety, and zest for life. Shellfish are good for lust and psychic awareness. This would be like your shrimp, your lobsters, crawfish, crawdaddies, things of that kind of nature. And turkey. The emphasis is on family gatherings, grounding, and protection. Dairy products, butter, smoothing out relationships, spirituality, and having tenacity. Cheese, and I'm talking real cheese, not Velveeta, not the stuff in the can that a lot of Americans really seem to like. And give me the squeezy cheese on a chicken and biscuit cracker, and you know, the hillbilly in me is happy. But I don't use squeezy cheese in my everyday life or my magical cooking. That is a once in a blue moon kind of occurrence. But cheese is grounding, healing, joy, and bringing things to fruition. Eggs, fertility, of course. Lust, protection, spirituality, and strength. And taking a sip of tea. New from Walmart, Witch's Brew coffee mug. They also had some other really cute ones that said, my broomstick runs on coffee. And another one said, hocus pocus, I need coffee to focus. Your girl bought them all. Anyway, milk. Goddess energy, love, nurturing, and spirituality. Whipped cream is prosperity. And yogurt is healing and spirituality. Now, I want to get into some items that, when they're prepared, the general intent of that item, okay, is as follows, okay? So we're talking like ice cream, okay? It goes by flavor, so like butter pecan would be for employment and prosperity. any kind of chocolate. So that would be chocolate mint, fudge ripple, whatever. Love and prosperity. Coffee is mental powers. Neapolitan, love and prosperity. Strawberry is love, and vanilla is love. Oh boy, that's good tea. Nothing like a good oolong tea. Breads. What? Yes, I love you. He's such a stinker. Bread, in general, is for kinship and sustenance. You know, the breaking of bread at the table, okay? That's kinship, when you pass that loaf around to break bread. Cornbread, for life cycles, eternity, luck, protection, and spirituality. Crackers are for grounding. So if you use cracker for a crust, you know, you smush up your crackers and like for a crust for something, it helps keep you grounded. Dill bread for love. Garlic bread, protection. Pita bread, spirituality. Pretzels, protection. Rye bread is for fertility and love. Tortillas, protection and spirituality. Wheat bread, fertility, grounding, and prosperity. And I left out 7-grain bread, which is prosperity. Now, you also have foods that you prepare breakfast-wise here in the States for pancakes and waffles. And buckwheat pancakes are great for grounding, prosperity, and protection. Buckwheat is what we used in Appalachia when I was a kid for pancakes. And the buckwheat is not a refined flour like regular bleached white flour is. There are more nutrients in buckwheat, and it has almost a nutty taste to it. Pancakes in general, luck. And you can shape your pancakes into different shapes that would refer to the goal or the intent that you want to set. Okay, the same thing like in your baking. If you're making sugar cookies, same process applies. Waffles are for friendship. Brownies for love. Cake in general is celebrations, hospitality, but it also, you know, varies by flavor. Cookies in general are nurturing and love. You know, cookies just make you feel warm and fuzzy. You remember your mom fixing chocolate chip cookies for you, or oatmeal raisin, which was my favorite, raisin cookies. Raisin filled cookies were that my mother made. I wanted it rather than a birthday cake. That's how weird a kid I was. Still am. Sugar cookies. You use the shape to determine the goal, okay? Gingerbread, love and prosperity. Pies. Round pies in general are for spirituality. Squared pies in general are for prosperity, okay? Apple pie, healing, love, and peace. Banana cream pie, prosperity. Blackberry pie, lust and prosperity. Chocolate cream pie, which is one of my favorites, is love and prosperity. Coconut cream pie for spirituality. Cherry pie for love. Key lime pies that are very popular in the southern part of the United States. You make it with key limes from the extreme south, from Florida, for love and purification. Same for lemon pies, love and purification. Mince pies, which are very popular in the holidays over in Europe and in the UK. Luck and prosperity. Pecan pies, prosperity. Those are very popular at Thanksgiving in the US. Pumpkin pies, healing and prosperity. Again, very popular in the US at Thanksgiving and during the holidays. One of my favorite is rhubarb pie, and that's for love and protection. And my mother made a rhubarb raisin pie or a strawberry rhubarb cobbler that was to die for. And when I said square pies, cobblers where I am from have a crust and a bottom to them. They were typically square or oblong. And then they also had a top crust that was woven in a lattice kind of weave kind of way. A lot of people think that cobblers are like you take that baking mix like Bisquick or Jiffy and you slap the biscuit kind of looking stuff on the top and put a little sugar on top, or do a sugar-based crumble, sugar and flour crumble for the top as a cobbler. That is not what a cobbler was where I'm from, okay? It was a big square or rectangular pie, okay? And that's what I was talking about when I said square pies. I'm talking about cobblers where I'm from, okay? Beverages, alcoholic beverages. Now, if you drink, do so responsibly. But one of my favorite, apricot brandy, is for lust. And I use apricot brandy to make my holiday fruit cakes. And my fruit cakes are not like the tripe that you buy in the stores at Christmas in the U.S. They're actually candied fruit, like Christmas cakes that they refer to in the UK and in Europe. My fruit cake is not what you think of, and I actually have people pay me to make them fruit cakes during the holidays. So, and that apricot brandy is what I use to juice my fruit cake up with. I use either apricot brandy or a really good bourbon or a good whiskey, because life is too short for crappy liquor. Anyway, beer, purification. Blackberry brandy, another one of my favorites, is lust and prosperity. Champagne is lust. Cognac is lust. Mead, which is a very common Wiccan drink. It's honey wine that we include in a lot of our rituals. That's for love. Rum is lust and protection. Tequila is for lust. Red wine is celebrations and joy, and white wine is for love. So you can see that a lot of the alcohol has lust in there. That's because we make bad choices when we drink too much alcohol. Remember that. Especially me and tequila, bad choices all over the place. Anyhow, I digress. Non-alcoholic beverages. Chocolate milk, prosperity. Cider, especially apple cider this time of year, very popular in the U.S. right now. Healing and weight loss. Coffee, mental powers, physical energy, and strength. Juices in general, juice. Energy, psychic awareness, purification, vitality, rejuvenation, but it also varies with the type of juice, because cranberry juice is for protection, grape juice, weight loss, orange juice, purification, lemonade, love and purification, milk is love, nurturing, and spirituality, tea, courage, mental powers, prosperity, restfulness, and strength, and water is purification. Now there's also ingredients that I call like miscellaneous stuff that you put in recipes that sometimes you don't even think about that they could possibly have a correspondence to them. The first one is apple cider vinegar, and that's for healing. Baking soda or baking powder, which is a very common ingredient in, home baked from scratch baked goods. Raising energy or raising expectations. Candy in general is prosperity. Corn syrup. We use that a lot in the US to make like our Christmas candies and our truffles and things like that. It's for luck, protection, solidifying plans or ideas, and spirituality. Flour, and I'm talking like all-purpose regular flour. Revealing hidden matters in consistency. When you make gravy, you know, regardless of what kind it is, a gravy is for consistency, smooth transitions, and uniformity. Honey. A lot of us use honey, like in my tea, for a sweetener rather than using raw, you know, raw sugar or white sugar. Happiness, healing, love, lust, purification, spirituality, the sweet things in life, weight loss, and wisdom. When we have jellies or jams, or we call them preserves where I'm from. Jellies have the seeds and everything strained out of them. Jams and preserves in the US where I'm from still have the seeds and the, you know, visible parts of the original fruit in there. So it's for energy, joy, and pleasantness. Maple syrup, prosperity and love. And I'm talking real maple syrup, not log cabin, not Aunt Jemima flavored stuff. No, real 100% maple syrup. So if you fix nachos, they're great for protection because usually they've got a little bit of spice to them, okay? And those spices are great for protection. Olive oil, spirituality. Pizza, like cheese pizza, peace and happiness. Everybody should eat cheese pizza to bring around peace and happiness to the world. Popcorn, lifting your burdens, and then also for recreational activities. Salsa is for protection because it's got the spicy element to it. Soups in general encourage communication, steady change, and psychic awareness. Soy sauce, protection. Regular white sugar, love. Tofu, for those of you who use a lot of tofu in your diet. Protection, psychic awareness, spirituality, and strength. Vinegar in general, okay, so that could be balsamic, it could be malt, it could be a flavored kind of vinegar, red wine vinegar, are for protection and purification, where apple cider vinegar was for healing, okay? And then finally, yeast is for grounding and purification, and that's a common ingredient in our baked goods. So there you have it. You've got a whole bunch of correspondences for your cooking. In the description box, as I said, there's a handout all about cooking. It's got the correspondences by ingredient and then also a list of ingredients by intent. So you can look through the intent, and let's say you wanted abundance and fertility, and it lists apples, bananas, barbecued foods, basil, beef, berries, cabbage, etc., etc., etc. So there we have it. This is it for kitchen witchery. The next video is going to be on defensive magic. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe before you leave if you like the content. Almost 80% of the people who view my videos aren't subscribed, but they keep coming back. So come on and join the fam. And as I always say, my friends, merry we did meet, merry we will part, until we merry meet again. Be well and walk in love and light, everybody. Bye.